Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sin Permiso, a Latina lifestyle podcast. And we're on the money mindset here, and I'm proud to announce that our guest today is one of my first bosses, Cecilia Maya. Thank you, Ceci, for coming.
No, thank you for the invitation, Peggy. Thank you.
So she is a badass bitch, which is what I love, right? Ceci is an entrepreneur. She's a self-made business person. And I want to say one of those people that I've learned a lot with and through. And honestly, you have motivated me. And
Sweet thing.
there's mentors that you find in your life along the road, along your journey. And each one leaves a little piece in you. And I think it all builds the person that you are today. And that's why I wanted to have you here, because you have a great business trajectory, a great story, and you're also a role model. So Ceci, let's start off with how you came. I remember from you telling me that you came to this country. You were 3 years old. How was that? What do you remember growing up? What do you think formed you? And what did you learn about business from your family? And then what did you learn on your own?
Oh my goodness, yes. I came to the United States when I was 4 years old. My mother, my father, and us, 7 kids. We're 7 kids in my family. My father was a workaholic. He worked 2 jobs to support us. My mother was an at-home mom. And so I think that's where it started. That's where it almost became like a need, because we would get clothes once a year. So it was come September, even though my father worked so hard to put us through Catholic school, it was once a year that they would buy us the boots, the coat, the clothes, and that had to last the whole year because we only got it once a year. There were 7 of us. And so, just growing up, I remember saying, this is not what I want for my children. I want my children to have a little more. Not that I realized that we were poor as kids, because I think everybody in my neighborhood was pretty much like us, huge families, and nobody had more than anybody else. But I just, whenever I'd say to my mom, I need a new pair of shoes. Mija, todavía no se puede.
No es
Hay
hora.
que esperar. Yo hablo con su papá y ahí veremos. So that's the way it went at home. And so then, growing up, my mom and dad separated. I was about 12, 13 years old. I started working at 14. There was an insurance agency down the street. So my parents, go back to my parents, they weren't entrepreneurs. My dad was just a workaholic to support the family.
But you saw through that that's not what you wanted.
Exactly. I didn't want to be a stay-at-home mom because all I saw my mom do was cook, clean, wash uniforms, and that wasn't me. And so my mother always said, ay, no, las que trabajan en oficinas no se ensucian las manos. Yes, claro. Ellas se visten muy bonito. My mother would just
always looking nice. The office women always looked on point.
Exactly. Entonces, so then there was insurance. I was in high school. I was in the 9th grade, and down the street there was an insurance agency that had a sign saying that they needed a typist. I knew how to type. I was in the 9th grade. I was taking typing classes, and I thought I was good. I was the best in my class. So I said, I got this. So I went in there. I'm a very positive person. As much as I'm so shy, because I'm very shy, but I'm positive. And so I walk in there, I knock on the door. So this tall man, he was a lawyer, comes in, opens the door and says, you're looking for a job? So he looks at me like una culicagada, like
this little
what
kid.
do you want? Yes. And so I said, no.
And you're petite. I can imagine. You must have been very petite.
Very, yes. I've never grown past 5 feet. I've never weighed more than 99 pounds. Okay, well, today I'm a little more than that, but
102.
no, a little more than that, but still, but yeah. So he looked at me like, what are you doing here? And I said, I saw your sign that you need a typist, and I'm bilingual. I speak English and Spanish. We were in JP, remember, and back then it was the 80s, and it was all los cubanos, los dominicanos. So it was, and he catered. It was an insurance agency.
He catered to Latinos.
To the Latinos. So I said, I'm perfect for you because I speak both languages and I can help you. And I'm a great typist. I said, why don't you try me? So I think he saw that whatever in me, and he said, okay, come, let's go for a ride. We went in his car. He had something to do. He interviewed me in his car, didn't even put me to type. And he said, you're hired. Come tomorrow. I said, I get out of school at 2. I can be here at 2:15. Oh, not at 2, but I could be here at 2:15 when the bus drops me off. He says, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. That was my first job as an insurance agent because I wanted to be was a lawyer. That was my dream job, was to be a lawyer. And that's where it all started. It was when I took care of the first customer, because not only was it to type, it was, type invoices
Customer
and type letters.
service.
Exactly. It was when the customer came in, he didn't speak English. I needed to call the company and ask them a question. And he looked at me like I had done this miraculous thing. And he goes, muchas gracias, niña. No sé cómo agradecerle. I took those words to heart, like, whoa, like I did something big for
I really helped this person.
Yes, and so I think that's what sparked the beginning of
Running a business, being an entrepreneur, wanting to help others, and the way to help others is financially. When you have a business, when you run a business, they say part of the reason why you have money is to help others. So that inspired you. You knew that you wanted to be that voice and be able to help this community.
Without a doubt. I was 16 years old when I decided I want my own insurance agency. This is what I want to do. This is what I love. So my boss was going to sell the agency back then. So I said, Texador, I'll buy it. My mother can refinance the house. I'm sure she'll lend me the money.
So you're saying this at 16 years old.
Yes.
I can buy your business. I love this. This is nuts.
Because I loved it. He wanted to sell. And I thought, this is a great idea. I live down the street. I know the customers. And so he said, Ceci, you can't afford it. And I said, no, I can't. I had no idea what an insurance agency cost back then. He said, it's $150,000. My jaw dropped. Everything dropped. And I'm sure he saw it in my expression. And I said, I don't think my mother would lend me $150,000. Not back in the 80s.
And now it's at 16 years old.
Exactly. But that's where my love for insurance started. And then from there, I went to work for another insurance agency. And then it just grew. I opened my first insurance agency with money that I borrowed. An aunt lent me $5,000, another uncle lent me $10,000, and it was that. It was none of my own money because I had worked since I was, 14, 15, up until I was 28 when I opened my first insurance agency.
28.
And it was all money that I had borrowed. And and everybody looked at me like, huh. And I said, listen, I'm young enough that if it doesn't work, I'll pay you back. I'll work and I'll pay you back. What's the worst thing that can happen? I fail. Oh well, I'll do this. I know I can do this. And again, see, I'm so positive. And so I think that's what has helped me just do everything that I've done.
There's a common thread, Ceci. Common thread in people that I interview that are successful entrepreneurs. Usually everyone starts at around 14 years old, right? They think about starting their own business. They find what they want to do and their passion early on. 28-year-olds nowadays don't open their own insurance agencies. So it's super admirable. You were way beyond your time. You had grit and gusto, balls, and you took risks, and you didn't care if you were going to fail. That's another common thread. Is entrepreneurs don't care if they're going to fail because they know that they're going to get back up and they're going to do it.
Absolutely.
That's super interesting. So one of my first jobs was working with you at your insurance agency. And I don't even know how. I just walked in, I think, and then you hired me and I worked. And at the time I was working for you, if you remember, I also was running a bar.
Yes.
I was running a bar on the weekends.
Yes.
During the week, I think I was doing, I had my radio program on Thursday nights. Like I was doing all this stuff. And I remember when you actually fired me. So yes, one of the you did, but you did.
I let you go.
You did me a favor. She was the cutest. She goes, listen, because she knew I was all over the place. I was trying to do this, that. She said, I think that you're doing a lot of things and you're going to be doing a lot of big things and you really just don't have time to concentrate on this right now. And I answered you, I'm like, you're right. I felt like an obligation to stay there working. And when you said that, you gave me my out. I'm like, you're right. Thank you so much.
Because I believe that God closes one door, but because he has a bigger one open. And Peggy, I saw the potential you had back then. You were 17, 18, I think.
Yep.
And so I said, no, Peggy, usted se va a comer el mundo. Because you too, you were on the go, so no.
Yeah. But you know what? Everything happens for a reason. I began with you over there on the insurance agency. And then like a year and a half later, I was the secretary of the real estate office that you shared space with. So I became the secretary, and that's how I got involved in the real estate world. So one thing always leads to another, and here we are today.
Stepping stones. That's what I
Yes.
call them. Stepping stones.
And now, Ceci, you have a lot of successful businesses. For example, so you had the insurance agency, then you had the Cosmopolitan, which was a nightclub, ran for many years successfully in East Boston. You are now the present owner of Volare restaurant on Broadway in Revere,
Correct.
which is very successful as well. You've always been, though, a real estate investor. Through all of this, early on, you recognized, how important it was to invest in real estate and the growth that real estate has. So tell us a little bit about that real estate trajectory and how you got involved in real estate.
When in the early 90s, when the market pretty much crashed, in my opinion, I had recently opened the insurance agency, but I knew that I needed to invest for tomorrow because I didn't know realistically how long the insurance business would be able to survive. Because back then, insurance was regulated, and there was always this mention that it was going to deregulate, and I knew eventually that was going to affect me. And so the other thing was that I also always thought, I always read, I love to read, and it always said, you never put your eggs all in one basket. And so when the market pretty much crashed in the early 90s, I saw the opportunities. Triple deckers in East Boston were going for $60,000, $70,000. Yeah. So I figured, okay, this is where I need to go. So I bought first a triple decker before I bought my own home. I was still renting when I bought a triple decker because it was just so accessible. And I always thought, it was the investing, the attitude, the mentality that I had that I need to invest a little to gain more in the long run. And so really that's what did it for me. And so it was just I took advantage of the opportunities that were present at the time. And so that's how I did it, little by little. Every time I saved $10,000, $15,000, I'd use that, give a down payment and buy a house. I'd wait another little, 2-3 years. Whenever I had another little, I'd invest in another one. And that's how slowly but surely I acquired the few properties that I own. They were great investments. I look back today. Thank God that the market didn't do me wrong.
Yeah.
But that's how I got into real estate.
Yeah, definitely. I know that you've always had your hand in real estate. And obviously it's been the vehicle, like I said, that all of us have grown with, have grown through. And it's definitely, and nowadays they're saying, the value of money, the value of cash with inflation is going down to nothing. Invest in brick and mortar. So there were people years ago that would tell me, diversify, do stocks, blah, blah. Everything you have is in real estate. And now it seems to be one of the only safe investments out there, which is real estate. But then there's something else that you have. It seems like you're a little passionate about it. Tell us about the avocado farm. What does that entail?
Oh my goodness, I started that 3 years ago. It was truly my nephew. I have a nephew. His dream was because his grandfather grew up on a farm. And so in order to honor the memory of his grandfather, he has from his uncle's side, not our side of the family, an avocado farm there, and said, Ceci, we need to do this. My uncle is doing great in the avocado farm. Why don't we invest in this? In the beginning, I thought, an avocado farm, I know zero about avocados, with the exception that they're delicious and I could eat them every day. But that's it. I have no knowledge, one. And two, it's in Colombia. Realistically, I hardly travel to Colombia because I don't have time. I'm just so busy, I don't have time. So I thought, I don't think this is right for me. But his enthusiasm, his passion became my passion. And so I said, okay, we can do this. So I did. I traveled to Colombia. We went. We looked at the parcel of land. We looked at the avocados. I ran the numbers. And I said, I'd be a fool if I don't invest, if I don't do this. So that's where I am now. I'm investing. We're planting trees. And so now my next project is to become an importer, because that's where I want to go with that. I want to import avocados, since it's the next best thing to gold, is to import avocados.
Is it the Haas or which kind?
It's the Haas.
Yeah, those are the best ones for the guacamole.
Well, I think they're the best ones for anything. Yeah, no, they are. They're great.
Definitely very excited to hear about that. And now, so through this trajectory, we're talking about business here. I know that you have a husband and you have children, and but still and though, I think that there's also like a parallel here with a lot of strong business women, where we have a husband. Sometimes there are the Robins who are Batman or Batwoman. But you made a point earlier before we started about how marriage doesn't define who you are, and marriage doesn't define what you do in business and in life. You know, there are marriages that work because they're teamwork, right? But there's always, I feel that there's sometimes with strong women, we take the lead. So what do you think about that, Ceci, as far as your life has gone and marriage? Tell us a little bit about how you felt with respect to that relationship and being a strong woman and having it not define you.
The advantage I think that I have in marriage is that I met my husband when I was 15. So it was a combination of that we grew up together in that sense, even though, you know, he's only 4 years older than I am, but we pretty much grew together. And I believe that I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have the support that I get from him, because I know that I'm the stronger one in the family, but he supports me. And so that's what I think makes us a great couple, because I'll bounce ideas off him. Honey, what do you think if I do this? And what do you think if I do that? And then he'll say, Ceci, no, you shouldn't do it this way. But sometimes I am just so strong-willed. No, honey, yo creo que this is the way it needs to be done. And I'll give him my insight. And so that's funny because he realized the other day, he said, Ceci, it's interesting how men look at one thing through a certain perspective, and yet women see it the other way. And it's not that men are wrong or that women are wrong. We just see things differently. However, we can come, you know, and have this common ground. And I said, honey, oh my God, you are so right. So every business that we've run, because I always say that because Oscar worked in one agency and I worked in the other, in Cosmopolitan, he did the groundwork, he worked there every night. I was behind the scenes. I did the administrative work, the paperwork, paying the bills. And then with Valare, I have an amazing business partner. He too,
Chris.
He's amazing. Without Chris, there wouldn't be a Valare. And again, you know, right now we're sharing the workload, but so I believe that it's teamwork. And so one of us needs to do the groundwork and the other one works behind the scenes. So in my sense, you know, I've always, yo siempre he halagado a Oscar because he lets me be who I want to be. He supports me. You know, sometimes I'll leave the house and he'll say, honey, you're going to go out looking like that? Honey, who am I going to impress? You know, I'm just going to go to work. And he's like, no, you got to, you know, you got to do this, you got to do that. So I'm so happy that he supports me.
Yeah. Yep.
That he doesn't need to be the face of anything, that he supports me. And so I think that's what's made it work. I think I've sacrificed a lot in a sense.
We all feel that way with the guilt, with the children. We sacrifice time with them to be able to be successful. Don't you find that?
100%, 100%. And if anything, that's what eats me many times, thinking, oh, you know, I should have been there more for my kids, even though my son says, oh, Mom, you know, I understand you're a busy mom and I wouldn't have it any other way. And yet my daughter remembers saying, Mom, you were always so busy. You were always working. I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And funny enough, she's doing what she wanted to be. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom.
Oh, no, just so sweet. I'll never forget her when she was little. She was the sweetest thing. Oh.
She is. To this day, she still is. She has a heart of gold. She's a strong woman because she's a strong woman. But she has a heart of gold, and she's a phenomenal mom. She's a loving mom, and she wouldn't have it any other way.
See, you feel guilt. We feel guilt because of things that we have in our mind that we may have not done or may have not given. But think about what you created through them. Look at how strong they are. Look at her, how loving she is. We do teach them. They do learn, and they watch. And they know, and they appreciate at the end of the day. And look at Sebas, what he said to you. What did he say to you earlier when you were going to come over here? You said you were a little nervous.
I did. I said to him, I Sebas, I don't know. I'm a little nervous because, you know, I'm so corny. He says, Mom, it's okay. You're you. As long as you're not pretentious, this is who you are. I said, I know, but I don't want to come off as being so just, you know, corny or whatever. He's like, no, Mom, You're fine the way you are. He's a good kid. He's strong. He's very business oriented.
He learned. They do what they see us do. But listen, being corny, being vulnerable, being genuine, I find that's what connects us to people. And that's what connects us in business as well. And that character of yourself and being genuine and being true, that's what's filtered onto your customers, to everyone that you've been in contact with. And I mean, like I said, look at me. You definitely motivated me. And I'm sure you motivated all those girls that you had at that insurance agency. You taught each and every one of them a lot. I could see the admiration that they would have for you when we all work together. Ceci, so you're a powerhouse. You are something else. I mean, you've done so much, and I can see you continuing to do much more. We have a lot of listeners here, all ages, all backgrounds. If you could give advice to a young girl, anyone that's listening right now to the podcast, right? Someone that you could inspire, maybe someone that's out there not feeling so good about themselves, or, you know, has all the complexities that young girls have and all these ideas in their head of what they should and shouldn't do or should be or not be. You are in the business world as a woman. What advice could you give them?
I would tell them to follow their dream. Don't give up. You're going to get many no's. It's difficult. It's hard in the beginning, but every day do a little something to achieve your goal. And I believe that you're going to get there. Don't give up. You know, I think the worst thing that a person, not just a female, but a person can have is no dreams. Because if you don't have a dream, you're not going to go anywhere. You need a dream. You need a goal, and every day strive to reach that goal. You're going to make it regardless of how big it is or how small. Just don't give up. Don't give up. Many people, and even you're going to have haters. You're going to have people
Tell me about
that
it.
don't believe in you, that are going to try and knock your ideas. Play deaf to those things. You continue there. Like I said, I told you, I wanted to have an insurance agency since I was 16. I was 28. And all those days, I dreamt every day of, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? I never gave up. Don't give up. You're going to do it. There's going to be many men that don't like successful women. Many men feel that they have to compete. It's not a matter of competing. It's not that. We're not competing. We just want to be able to do something for ourselves, something that makes us happy. And many times making us happy could be staying at home with your children, or it could be working a 9 to 5. But if your goal is to own a business, there's so many resources out there that are there today to help us. Back then, growing up, I didn't have the resources, or maybe I didn't look for them, because one, I didn't know where to look. I only knew what I knew. But if I was opening a business today, there's so many amazing community resources that are out there that will help women, will help us with funding, will help us with marketing, will just guide us, consulting firms that will guide us through that trajectory. Don't give up. That's the best advice I could give someone. Don't give up.
Wise words. Ceci, you're a staple to our community. You have, like I said, a long business trajectory. And I know that everyone that was listening today, you've put a little golden nugget into their ears. I can't tell you how appreciative I am that when I called you and said, Ceci, can you want to come on the podcast? You automatically said yes. Like I said, you're one of my first bosses and mentors. Thanks for being here today and sharing this podcast, this time, your time. I know that it's valuable, and I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you. Thank you for being on Sin Permiso.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Until the next time.